This week on Talking Pictures with Neil Rosen, we'll look at Paul Thomas Anderson's new film Licorice Pizza, about young love in 1970s Southern California. House of Gucci with Lady Gaga, Adam Driver, and Jared Leto. The new satire Don't Look Up with Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence. And Being the Ricardos, a behind-the-scenes look at I Love Lucy with Nicole Kidman and Javier Bardem. We've got all that and many more movie picks coming up. I'm Neil Rosen, and welcome to Talking Pictures. It's our monthly Critic Roundtable show, where we debate what's worth watching when it comes to new releases, hidden gems, and Hollywood classics. Joining me today are Lisa Rossman from Signs and Sirens. Hello there, Lisa.
Hey, doll.
Bill McCuddy's here from Gold Derby. Hey, Bill.
Hi, Neil.
And returning to the show, so good to see you, Jack Rico from Showbiz Cafe. Okay, let's get started with a look at several new films in theaters that are either in theaters, or streaming, beginning with House of Gucci, and let's take a look at a clip.
Do you want to be left in the dust? You want to keep selling coffee mugs in airports? Is that your legacy? It's time to take out the trash. Aldo and Paolo, they're poison. They're an embarrassment to this company, and everybody knows it. They have to go.
Patricia, they are my family.
Bill, tell us about House of Gucci.
Well, this should be called House of Glamping because it's camp made glamorous. This is the shocking true story of the family behind the most knocked off logo in the planet. That's Lady Gaga as Patrizia Reggiani, and she marries into the Gucci family with unbridled ambition, and the whole family starts to fall apart, as does the legacy. It triggers a reckless spiral of betrayal, decadence, revenge, and ultimately, yes, murder. This is Falcon Crest or Dynasty in Italy with Adam Driver, Jeremy Irons, Al Pacino, and Jared Leto in a film that is never boring. Directed with a Ryan Murphy flair by Ridley Scott, who made a better movie with Adam Driver this year called The Last Duel. I say watch them both.
Lisa?
I was so looking forward to this movie, but it is, for me, 2021's most disappointing film.
No!
Somehow, it's both too campy and not campy enough, and nothing about it merits 158 minutes on a whole family of 1% Fredos. The writing is aggressively mediocre. Even Irons and Driver stumble, which is saying a lot, and those dumbbell accents are all over the place. I would have loved this film if it was an actual Italian movie made by someone like, I don't know, Sorrentino. But this film is terrible.
Jack?
Well, I'm pretty mixed about this. I think there was parts of it that I really enjoyed, and there was parts of it that I didn't. Like Lisa said, I was very disappointed because on one end, they're offering you this Oscar pedigree, a legendary director, a star-studded cast. It's in Italy. It's the Gucci name. It's what's not to like about this. And all of a sudden, I'm watching it, and it's an unintentional comedy, 2 hours and 37 minutes long, that I couldn't really hold. But then on the other side, you have Lady Gaga, which is arguably one of the most versatile talents we have of our generation. And she was mesmerizing, but unfortunately, she just could not carry this film. And I laughed, but I all laughed for the wrong reasons.
I wept. I did not laugh.
Okay.
So you got a Gucci knockoff.
All right, first of all,
You're
Bill.
not happy with the knockoff.
Exactly.
Bill, I'm with you. I love this film because it's really entertaining. Look, the Gucci family is ridiculous, and I think director Ridley Scott recognized that and makes part of the movie ridiculous as well. And that's what I love about this. I mean, I think I was absorbed with the story, and the over-the-top nature of this made me like it even more. I mean, it's suspenseful, it's enjoyable. The accents that you're talking about, it just adds to this over-the-top nature
I
of
wish
the
that were
whole
true,
thing.
Neil. I love
Jared Leto is hysterical.
I
He is
love
Fredo.
camp, but this movie is just boring.
No,
It's just boring.
No. I think I can respect that you didn't like the film, but I don't think you really realized the
No, I
true
get
nature
it, brother.
of
I get
where
it.
it's
I know
going.
from camp. This
No,
is
no,
not
more
I get it.
mansplaining. I love it.
I get it. Yeah, no, seriously. You're Gucci-splaining.
I don't, you weren't laughing at Jared Leto?
No, I was like, oi, when is this film over?
Gaga powers the whole thing. She's terrific. I think Adam Driver- I can't recommend
I get it. You
on
like
my
it.
top 10 list of the year. All right, let's move on and let's talk about, Lisa, Licorice Pizza. I think we will be on the same page with this one.
Okay, ostensibly, this is about the Mundo Bizarro courtship between a 15-year-old entrepreneur who played actually by the late Philip Seymour Hoffman's son, Cooper, and a 25-year-old woman who's trying to find herself, who's played by the terrific musician Alana Haim. But really, think of this movie as like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the movie that maybe Tarantino would have made if he didn't swill so much Hollywood Kool-Aid. It's by director Paul Thomas Anderson, who is always amazing, and this is his love letter to the early 1970s San Fernando Valley. It's woven in with real historical details like the gas shortage and Barbra Streisand's hairdresser boyfriend, John Peters, who's played unforgettably here by—
He's brilliant.
He's amazing.
It's hysterical.
By
And you
Bradley
know that
Cooper.
Peters actually gave permission
Oh, I know.
to Anderson to make him look like a jerk, which is amazing to me. You know?
The appeal of the dialogue and the visuals and the soundtrack is undeniable. But I also want to be clear that there are really problematic racial and sexual tropes here. It's rendered with kind of a have your cake and eat it too wink, but it's still the white male gaze, and there are a lot of people who are upset with this film.
Jack?
This is Paul Thomas Anderson's American Graffiti. You know, if you look at all his films, there's a sense that he's like George Lucas pre-Star Wars. And one of the great things I love about Paul Thomas Anderson is the way he writes characters. They all feel so real. Like you could just Google them and there they are. You could, check them out on their Facebook account. But they're all fictional. And so he makes it so rich. These characters feel so palpable that you're fully interwoven into the story, and that's what I love about it.
But the child actor Gary is not fictional. The character in the movie is based on a real character who was in the movie Yours, Mine, and Ours, who started a waterbed company and who started all that
I
stuff.
mean, it's fictionalized.
That's true.
It's fictionalized.
The girl is fictional.
I'm a huge Paul Thomas Anderson fan, and I like a lot of this movie, but you mentioned that he does characters really well, and there are just too many characters in this thing.
That's what I love
mean,
about it.
Sean Penn comes along as
that was
supposedly
great.
William Holden, but that's like a
amazing.
sketch that stops
So
the
good.
movie and does something else. The same is true for Bradley Cooper. I don't understand why some people get to be the real actors they're playing and the real people they're playing, and others like Lucille Ball and Ed Sullivan are renamed. This is a big kind of exciting mess that
I love
I
that.
still think people should see, but just understand that it's a touch long, it goes in a lot of different directions, and it doesn't end as well as it begins.
If only you were as forgiving of this movie as you are of House of Gucci. I think you might be right.
I love this, and Paul Thomas Anderson is hit or miss for me. I loved some of his movies like Boogie Nights, and I hated like The Master and Magnolia. But this is
Magnolia's amazing.
This is
Inherent
great.
Vice.
First of all, the production design, as you said, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Lisa. He really captures the 70s. And look, I was pretty much the same age as that 15-year-old kid at the time. I remember the gas crisis. I remember when waterbeds were a thing, And I'm like, he really nails this.
Nails
the
it.
story was absorbing. I was really into the relationship between the younger kid who had the crush on the 15-year-old girl, the 25-year-old woman who doesn't even know why she's hanging out with the kid, who's a child actor. I thought this is one of
That's
the
all
best.
of us.
It's just
And by the way, if that was a 25-year-old guy and a 15-year-old girl, this movie never would have gotten made.
You're right. You are 100%
Yes.
right about that.
Look, this
for
is
sure.
one of the best films of the year. It's on a lot of top 10 lists. It'll be on mine as well. Highly recommended. Sorry you don't agree completely, Bill, but Lisa and I and Jack are on the same page. All right, next up, Jack, tell me about Don't Look Up. You can look up in this television show, by the way, but the movie Don't Look Up.
Good one, Neil.
All right, Neil.
Well, this is a movie that's on Netflix. And what if you discovered that there was a comet on a collision course to Earth, and no one seemed to care about this? That's the central premise.
That's the
Don't
joke.
Look Up. That's essentially the joke, and it's Adam McKay's Don't Look Up, which stars Leo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence, Meryl Streep, Jonah Hill, a star-studded cast, and it's a satirical look essentially at people's distrust of science today, using climate change as its subject. Now, for me, Leo, I've never seen Leo in a character like this. He's very vulnerable. The comedy that he has internally is fantastic. But more than anything, I think it's the subversive humor, the constant critical analysis that McKay has in movies like Vice, The Big Short, and now here, where I didn't know how much I needed to laugh in the last 2 years. And I feel like McKay always nails it, but with intellectual comedy, and I really love this film.
I think that Adam McKay needs Will Ferrell back to cut down on his smugness, because there are good points that are being made here. These are obviously very powerful allegories, but I mean, they're not nearly as revelatory as he thinks, and he really hammers us over the head with them, and he top loads his big points so early in the game that for the rest of the film you're kind of like, does this have to be this long? So, and then the amazing cast, and the cast is amazing, and they're all kind of in top form. I agree with you. It ends up feeling like an embarrassment of riches.
Yeah.
I wasn't as convinced of this film as you are, I have to say.
Bill?
People in top form have to have a top form script and great direction, and I think we're sort of on the same page here. The tone deafness of this thing and the way it kind of falls flat for me is really not what Adam McKay has done in the past. I don't think this is as good as anything else
Yep,
he's
I
done.
agree.
And I think it's so stuffed with people. Obviously, Leonardo wanted to play someone worried about the environment. The idea of a huge meteor coming towards the planet is funny, but this is no Doctor Strangelove the way it's.
Well, that's what he's trying to do. That's what this is.
And it's
100%
also-
Doctor
It's just not that much fun.
No, and it's supposed to be a political allegory about how we're not paying attention to things like COVID, et cetera, but it's like, okay, we get it.
I'm mixed on this. I thought the first 40 minutes were really good.
Exactly.
I mean, I sat there and I said, what a great idea. And the fact that nobody, as you said, Jack, cares about the comet hitting, and they're more interested in like a pop star's relationship played by Ariana Grande, and it just shows you that, like, you know, there's so many parallels to, like, yeah, we don't care about the environment, as you said, Bill. We don't
Leadership,
care about, like,
presidents don't care about
COVID.
anything.
People buy lies, et
Right.
cetera,
I
et
mean,
cetera.
that's what,
We get it.
That's what the comparisons are, and I give him credit for going that particular route. The thing is, after 40 minutes, there's nowhere to really go with this. You get the joke, and I mean, there's just all this extra garbage thrown in. There's this Elon Musk type character played by Mark Rylance with a weird voice. That didn't really work. There's an affair that happens between Kate Blanchett and Leonardo DiCaprio's character, which I think was just kind of like filler. Look, to me, you know, there's a lot of stuff in here that's just like throw just too much stuff in the kitchen sink, basically.
The
But
good news
I-
is if Tyler Perry ever wants to be a morning anchor, he's
He
got
could.
the job.
He was
secure.
amazing in
'Cause
that
he's
role.
terrific.
He was
Great.
good.
He's really
yeah,
funny.
He was,
I recommend the movie even with its flaws, considering how much junk there is out there. At least this has something to say and it's interesting. I just wish it was better.
it's a Netflix movie.
Being the Ricardos is a drama that takes us behind the scenes of the classic 1950s sitcom I Love Lucy. Let's look at a clip.
You can't have a pregnant woman on television.
Why not?
Because it's television. We come into people's homes.
Pregnant women often vomit.
I know I could any second.
May I say something?
Frankly, I can't
If
wait.
Lucy Ricardo's pregnant, the audience's mind immediately goes to how did she get that way? Lucy and Ricky sleep in separate beds.
We'll be pushing the beds together too.
Oh, no.
I'm sorry, Des. We're going to have to put our foot down on this one. You can't do it. End of discussion.
Jack, tell us about Being the Ricardos.
Well, Aaron Sorkin writes and directs this film that stars Nicole Kidman, Javier Bardem, J.K. Simmons, and Nina Arianda. And the story centers around this one very bad week on the production set of I Love Lucy, where some personal and professional issues enter the production that kind of threatens their career, the show, their marriage. And, you know, coming into this movie, it was interesting because there was a lot of controversy in the casting of Nicole Kidman and Javier Bardem. She's Australian, he's Spanish, he shouldn't be playing a Cuban, how is his accent gonna be? But I have to say, they gave world-class performances. And it was also interesting because Nicole and Javier, a month right before shooting, didn't want to do the movie.
Yeah.
They thought it was too big for them. But then they gave these very powerful performances. And I got to say, one of the things that I got out of this was how I had this new appreciation for Lucille Ball and the genius of the comedy of it. And a lot of it, I had just had no idea. So they became more three-dimensional. And I was just discovering the show for the very first time.
Look, I was really looking forward to this movie a lot, and maybe I'm too close to the subject matter. I'm a real big I Love Lucy fan. I've read a lot of books on it, so I knew a lot of this stuff. And look, I was cringing when I heard Nicole Kidman was cast in this thing, and I thought she did a really good job. So did Nina Arianda, who played, Vivian Vance. The whole cast is good. Javier Bardem,
J.K. was great, yeah.
They're all great. But Aaron Sorkin, the problem for me is, and by the way, the attention to period detail is phenomenal. That is the I Love Lucy set. Even the alley, when they go out of the studio.
All right,
they must
get
have
to the
filmed
bad
it.
Yeah, where are
part.
you going, baby?
So what I'm trying to tell you is that for a sitcom, which is one of the funniest sitcoms in the history of television, he went out of his way, Aaron Sorkin, not to put one laugh or nothing funny in this thing whatsoever. And that was one of my problems with this. It was just, it's a funny show, and there's not one piece of humor in this thing.
No, on the surface, this is a perfect match of material and director, given Sorkin's background in episodic television. But I actually think he is the big problem here. He can't resist his usual Sorkin-splaining, especially on topics like feminism, gag. The historical figures here sound like all his other characters in anything he's ever done. And to me, the worst thing is, I agree with you, Neil. He does a very big disservice to Lucy herself, who's written as sort of a joyless girl boss whose humor he seems to regard as totally mercenary, only turns it on when she has to.
She's not funny when she's
Nicole
not.
Kidman is actually surprisingly okay, and Javier is wonderful. But honestly, Lucy, I love her too, and Girlfriend deserved a better biopic.
I don't know, you guys, I feel like it's not funny because there was nothing funny about what was going on in their life
It wasn't
that
supposed
week.
to be that funny.
It was
No, but
only on camera that they lit it up.
There's a
And
difference
that's the
between
point that Aaron
joyless and-
Sorkin is trying to make here.
There's a
He's
difference
saying
between
that
joyless, though.
the business of making something funny is not all that humorous. By the way, I laughed out loud at J.K. Simmons and all of the stuff that he was doing with Vivian Vance. I thought that was hilarious. And I thought that there were a lot of good lines that Desi got off. The other thing that you didn't, if you didn't know much about their background, Desi was a huge, huge factor in this relationship and also in the production of television. I enjoyed it. I like anything Aaron Sorkin does, so maybe I'm grading it on a curve.
Definitely
But this
are.
is a candidate for my top 10 this year.
Lucille Ball was a person who had a lot of vivaciousness, and here she is grim.
We all had some splaining to do on the last movie, so let's switch gears and Bill, tell us about Belfast.
All right, I'll try and explain this one to everybody. This is Kenneth Branagh's sort of real-life story. It turns out he was born in Belfast during the tumultuous 1960s when Catholics and Protestants had the same God but saw things from different pews. Inside all of this is a little boy played by, incredibly, Jude Hill, who's actually Branagh as a kid, growing up around all of the turmoil that's happening in Northern Ireland. This unbelievable cast includes Judi Dench, Jamie Dornan, and a radiant Catriona Balfe. It is shot in black and white to make us a little more aware that Branagh has an agenda here. And it's not a perfect film, but it is a portrait, almost his Roma, and I think it's one of the best of the year.
Look, the strength is the weakness here to me. It's set in one of the darkest eras in Irish history, and somehow it's warm and fuzzy and modest in its scope and just about Branagh basically as a kid. The cast is extraordinary, and it's admirably, if a little showily shot. I mean, hashtag Branagh. But I just don't think this is a must-see, although I definitely think there's a certain swath of Oscar voters who are sure to eat it up.
Jack.
You know, one of the things I really connected with this film was the meaning of home and what home means. I mean, they have to depart, but there was this one great scene with Jude Hill where he describes exactly why he doesn't want to leave the neighborhood. And it really made me think about human union and how that's slowly eroding in our world and how they fought so hard to keep the neighbors, the aunts, the grandparents together. But unfortunately, the circumstances of life have to push you out. And how do you then cope with that? And I think that Kenneth this was therapy. This was therapy for him to do this film.
Sure, we watched his therapy.
Listen,
Great.
I like the way Kenneth Branagh tells the story through the eyes of a young kid. I mean, sure, there are movies like Bloody Sunday and In the Name of the Father that give you an adult perspective and an education, but this is like the kid is out there playing with his friends in the street or flirting with like a local girl, and, you know, 2 seconds later there's explosions and there's bullets flying and there's people dying. And, you know, they try to do the family normal activities like go to the movies. They don't know what awaits them when they leave the theater. And, you know, they actually go to see Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. But it becomes, this violence becomes just kind of like a way of life. And it's like, all right, well, do we just actually leave here and go to London? And I like the fact that this whole thing is seen through the eyes of a young, semi-autobiographical, through the eyes of a young Kenneth Branagh. This is one of the best films of the year. And I think it's really a good perspective and a really good film.
Okay.
Let's go get a pint.
All right, I'm tipping something off. I know you love this film.
I do.
I do not. I'm tipping that off too.
Big surprise.
But go ahead, talk about The Power of the Dog.
Well, in this adaptation of Thomas Savage's 1967 novel, Benedict Cumberbatch is unusually handsome here, I have to say, as a man's man rancher in a 1925 Montana. He basically spends the film antagonizing his brother's Jesse Plemons' new wife, who's played by Kirsten Dunst, and her gay son, Cody Smith McPhee. But this is directed by the great Jane Campion. So what initially reads as a period Western is actually a psychological thriller that toys with gender and sexuality stereotypes and doesn't shy from the violence of this country's history or any personal, the violence of people's emotions. I have to say, it is easy to get lost in the ravishing visuals here and the impeccable performances, but you have to pay close attention, or you're gonna miss the breadcrumbs that lead up to its devastating, sinewy, very sneaky ending. This film, for me, is as smart as it is beautiful, and it is extremely beautiful.
Bill?
Sneaky ending or just complete head scratch.
Again
I
with
mean,
the brain trust over here.
you can say anything you want about us getting it or not getting
I
it.
am.
It's a beautiful postcard, and Jane Campion does incredible work here. Some of the performances are even interesting, but I could care less about this movie. I didn't enjoy it. And,
I'm with you, brother.
and
What?
I am with
I
you.
can't
Hold on a
believe
second.
all
Let
the
him- let
I
him
can't
eat
believe
cake.
all the praise that's getting heaped on this.
I'm with
Yeah,
you.
First of all,
It's the
Campion,
Emperor's new cowboy hat.
That's
Campion
hilarious,
loves to,
but untrue.
Couldn't agree more.
Campion loves to explore the complexities of humanity, and she does this by displaying a masterclass character study with Benedict Cumberbatch on power dynamics
Yep.
and the toxic American masculinity. And she wants to say, there you go, and she wants to say, why are people like this? And at the end, we find out why. And I think that's the wonderful part about seeing a Jane Campion movie.
Okay, I couldn't.
Here we go.
agree with
Break
you
it
more.
down, Neil.
I couldn't agree with you more, Bill. Okay, yes, it's beautiful to look at. I'm not
Yes.
taking that away from the film. New Zealand substitutes wonderfully
For Montana.
for Montana, exactly. But it is boring. I did not care about any of these characters. The ending is so ambiguous. I had to go to Wikipedia afterwards and read what the heck happened at the end of that movie.
Oh, I
and I'm
knew what
going,
happened.
really? Is that what they're trying to say here? Talk about subtle. This goes beyond trying to be subtle. It's unexplainable. I didn't connect to this thing on any level. And this is the front runner for the Academy Award.
Absolutely.
It's arguably the best movie of the
Please.
year.
It's just a movie you can't watch while reading your phone. Sorry.
Neil,
This is a movie you actually have to pay attention
I
to.
saw it on the big screen. I was bored.
I agree with you, and I made you a
Here's
little
your flower.
Oh my God. That's a reference to the film for
reference.
everyone who
Yes.
hasn't seen
Yes.
it yet.
Okay.
Great scene.
All right. All right.
It's a reference to the movie.
Being here with all these lights shining on you, it's the closest most people ever get to being on stage. You know, to their dreams.
Not me.
Not you. I could see you want it.
More than anything.
Well, this is just a taste of things to come, Sandy.
That was a clip from last night in Soho. It's Bill McCuddy's personal choice as we go around the panel with our Critics' Picks of the Month. Bill.
Writer-director Edgar Wright is always drawn to the unusual, and I'm usually drawn to what he's doing. Baby Driver, Scott Pilgrim, Ant-Man, 3 of my favorites. So it's no surprise that I was taken with what's essentially a 70s-feeling drive-in movie called Last Night in Soho. It girls, Thomasin McKenzie and Anya Taylor-Joy, are two personalities of the same fashion student living in London in present day and in the swinging 1960s. Things get dark and then go over the top with the help of Dame Diana Rigg in her last performance. Spend a night with these three. It's the guilty pleasure that's going on my top 10 list.
I also really love Wright, and I thought this movie was gorgeous, very stylish, but also
Great.
very unsubstantive. And what is with a gotcha ending? Not a good ending.
It's a modern day Hitchcock thriller. It's
Oh,
violent,
please.
it's stylish.
Compare this to Hitchcock.
Great
Seriously.
soundtrack.
Brian De Palma, maybe
and
De Palma.
Anya Taylor-Joy is wonderful and mesmerizing. I had so much fun with this.
Okay, the set design is great. It captures the swinging 60s of London. The first half an hour is good, and then it devolves into this horror movie, and the tonal shift does not make any sense, and it's a terrible horror movie.
Come on.
I
Oh,
don't
it's
care.
no Power of the Dog, huh, Neil? All right, thank you.
Oh,
I don't
yeah,
care how
that's
good
great.
the beginning was. It becomes so out there and
No, it's
crazy.
just fun. Don't listen to
No,
this.
I would not.
Moving
no,
on.
It's a mess. Lisa, what is your pick this month?
Mine is Parallel Mothers. It's Pedro Almodovar's latest, and it reunites him with the delicious Penelope Cruz. She plays a single photographer whose baby is swapped at birth with a teenager's. So you can imagine, insert the writer-director's charismatic soap operatic twists that he shows in all his films. But this one has a very important addition. It's his first film ever to directly address the brutality of the Franco regime. And he does this with the kind of power and heart you'd expect from Almodovar. This is one of my favorite films of the year. It really is.
It's a powerful film that captures the heartbreak of loss of a child, especially from a mother's perspective. And it also really talks about the Franco regime and how
amazing.
not many American movies really capture that. So Almodovar is saying, look, I'm going to give it to you. there's still family members that are still missing. So there's a major social commentary in this film that you don't expect. So Almodovar, once again, just provoking the audience.
Why is Penelope Cruz's name not coming up in any Best
I
Actress?
agree with you.
I thought she was
amazing.
fantastic.
She's
Yeah.
left
She's
out of
amazing.
the conversation completely.
For some reason,
You're right.
people aren't seeing this film, and they should.
Almodovar is great. He's a brilliant director. This is really good. What's your pick this month, Jack?
Well, my favorite movie of 2021 is Pig, that stars Nicolas Cage. And it centers on this famous chef who lives alone in the wilderness and has his truffle pig stolen, and it's the fear of going back into civilization to recover this pig. Surprisingly, this movie is very violent. Great commentary on the shallowness of the cuisine industry today. Unexpected surprise, and one of the best movies of 2021.
It is a really tender, raw meditation on love and loss. And honestly, it was so raw that at times it was hard to watch.
Yes.
Jack, you live in the middle of nowhere. Do you have any livestock that we don't know about?
Not yet, but soon.
Well, my pick this month is a sci-fi romantic comedy from Germany called I'm Your Man. Maren Eckert plays Alma, an archaeologist who, in order to obtain funding for her research, reluctantly agrees to participate in a very bizarre project. For 3 weeks, she's required to live with and evaluate a humanoid robot named Tom, played by Downton Abbey's Dan Stevens, who is designed to be the perfect partner for her. Tom is tailored specifically to every one of Alma's character traits, her desires, and her needs. Problem is, Alma just wants to get through the 3 weeks to get research money, initially treats Tom as a simple piece of machinery, and doesn't want to deal with his aim-to-please attitude. Now, if this sounds like a silly sitcom to you, I assure you it's not. Both actors are excellent, and the film offers some food for thought about love, loneliness, and relationships. I think that you should check this out. And speaking about being out of time.
Yeah, have we been here for 3 weeks listening to that?
We are out of
we part of
time.
an experiment? I'm curious.
I want to thank our guests, Bill McCuddy, Lisa Rossman, and Jack Rico. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on Talking Pictures.